Welcome to a Council of Black Belts. I'm Shihan Scott Phillips. I hold the current ranking of 8th Dan, and I'm Nidai Soki, second generation head of family Aido-Ryu. I'll be the moderator of this episode. Visualize the application. What is a Council of Black Belts? It is simply what the name implies. A group of black belts from various martial arts styles coming together to openly discuss various topics in and around the martial arts. In addition, it's an open and honest discussion not only in the martial arts studies and or instruction, but how to incorporate the martial arts in one's daily life. Our topic of discussion today is visualize the application. So now that you've practiced that technique for hundreds, if not thousands of times, you believe you've mastered the technique. Have you? Or have you only just begun to scratch the surface? If you've only practiced the actual movement, the ways to turn left or right, to apply this much pressure in this direction for this amount of time, and so on, you have in no way mastered the move. While the mechanics of the technique are important, they're only a small piece of the pie. Let's look at the complete picture. Are you able to visualize the application of the technique? In short, are you prepared to use the technique in real life? What will you do if it does not have the effectiveness needed for the situation? To visualize the application, you must incorporate preparedness, situational awareness, evaluation of the threat that you face, the amount of force you may legally use, your skill level, your opponent's skill level, and numerous other factors. Now, let's look at the next slide. It illustrates the following point. So you believe you're a good driver and have mastered the skill of driving. Look at the next slide and answer this question. Am I a good driver? If an airplane pilot can remember all of these buttons, you too can use the turn signal lever. Developing the ability to visualize an application of a technique is much the same as developing your driving skills. The mechanics of driving are quite simple. Start the engine, put the vehicle in gear, and drive. However, the bigger picture of driving a vehicle requires the awareness of all other vehicles on the road, what the drivers of those vehicles will do, as well as pedestrians and other obstacles on the roadway. This is known as situational awareness. Let's look further into some of the elements involved in developing the visualization of the application. It's important to have the complete picture of truly being ready, willing, and able to actually use a technique. Remember, having a fully stocked first aid kit is completely useless if you do not have the knowledge and skill to use the items in that kit. Taking what I call the 30,000 foot view is the most important step to visualizing the application of a technique. In addition to knowing the movements of a technique, one must develop and hone their observation skills. You must be able to not only see the possible threat directly in front of you, but also all possible other threats in the area as well as other safety concerns. As an example, if you're using a technique to disarm an attacker that's pointing a handgun to your face, the simple mechanics of the technique would be gain control of the weapon while being certain you move your face and body away from the danger of being shot. The 30,000 foot view, however, requires you must be aware of the possibility of a second, third, or more attackers, with or without a weapon. Innocent bystanders that could be shot because of your reaction to the threat. What type of weapon is being used, the number of rounds it holds, and so on and so on. Situational awareness is a key factor in all aspects of not only the martial arts, but life in general, and the above example only scratches the surface. Seek out further information and articles for more information and knowledge about the development of situational awareness. Another key factor in visualization of a technique is reading the situation. By this, I mean the following. What has led up to the threat that requires the use of a technique? This is key in developing not only what technique to use, but how to use the technique, as well as what level of force you may legally use. In short, you must be able to identify what has led up to this threat or potential threat, and do you have not only a legal right, but moral right to react and use the technique. In most states in the USA, the use of force up to deadly force in defense of great bodily harm or death to yourself or another requires the attacker must have the ability, the motive or purpose, and willingness to cause such harm. In addition, there's also the legal requirement that you as the individual being attacked are not involved in a criminal act. Once again, another area to research further. Seek articles and additional information for use of force, paying close attention to local and area laws. As we move forward, another aspect of visualization of technique is being ready with another technique or follow-up technique should you find the application of the technique used has not ended the threat or worked as you thought it would. Overall, always be ready to adjust your technique as well as be ready with another technique. Keep this motto in mind. What do I have open, or what availabilities to use? Failure is never an option. Once you start, do not stop until that threat has been neutralized or you yourself have been neutralized. A common theory in law enforcement training is that in every confrontation you face, there is always a minimum of one firearm involved, the one that rests upon your hip. In today's climate of concealed carry, this holds true for everyone, not just law enforcement. To paraphrase Forrest E. Morgan in his book Living the Martial Way, Morgan talks about what I paraphrase as the 2/3 rule of death. Morgan writes about the importance of training as a warrior. He discusses that in every confrontation, there is a 2 out of 3 chance you die. Again, to paraphrase, Morgan writes, if you're not as skilled as your opponent, then you die an unhonorable death. The unhonorable death means your opponent was more skilled and you lost the battle. Next, Morgan writes that if you are equally skilled with your opponent and you are both killed in the battle and thus die, an honorable death. Last, if you're more skilled than your opponent, then you win the battle, thus killing your opponent, thus not being killed. I infer from Morgan's writing that death includes any level of confrontation, ending with no harm, to include great harm up to and including death for one or all participants, while victory or winning the battle to be the death of your opponent and or opponents without any harm or minimal harm to oneself. Thus, in any and all confrontations, you have a 2 out of 3 chance of death. Read that over a few times. A 2 out of 3 chance that every confrontation may result in death. Ask yourself again, have you truly mastered that technique? Our panel is now open for discussion. What are your thoughts or experiences with Visualize the application? Please feel free to share your thoughts as well as additional topics you would like to see discussed. If you're interested in being a part of the Council of Black Belts, please let me know. We have an additional topic of discussion we call What Would Soki Say? In this segment, when added, will allow us to hear thoughts from those no longer with us on this side of the dojo. So if you have a sensei who's no longer with you on this earthly journey, please share his or her thoughts on a topic, and we'll include such thoughts when the topic is discussed. I look forward to hearing from you. Reach out to me via email at Aido-Ryu1982@gmail.com. That's AIDORYU1982@gmail.com. Now, let's hear from some of the other members of the Council of Black Belts. First, we hear from Grandmaster Richard Hackworth. Grandmaster Hackworth shares, in the years of my martial arts training, every teacher that I have had believed in and taught various methods of visualization of improving our skills. Many interviews of Olympic athletes tell how they routinely use visualization techniques as part of training and competition. There are many stories of athletes who stated that using these techniques helped them to cultivate a competitive edge. As martial artists, we understand that it is a multi-sensory experience, and the technique involves much more than just visualization. While attending a seminar at the Incheon Sports College in Korea, I learned that the preferred term in competitive sports is imagery, which defines the process of imaging or picturing athletic performance from start to finish, employing all the senses rather than just focusing on visualizing a certain goal or outcome. I believe that all physical skills can be improved this way, including the performance of self-defense techniques. This belief is the foundation of why we have forms training in martial arts to begin with. As martial artists, we use these techniques to cultivate a heightened state of mental awareness, which has been shown to boost confidence and overall well-being, and in turn enhance performance. Research shows that athletes can use this technique to intend an outcome of a race or training session, or simply to rest in a relaxing feeling of calm and well-being. Mentally, imagery can be explained in this way. Mental imagery is a multi-sensory process that draws on the senses to create a vivid mental image of a particular process. Imagery is essentially the process of creating and recreating an experience in the mind's eye, which means it can be practiced just about any time, anywhere. So if floor space is limited for traditional forms or kata practice, we may use visualization to train. I've done this a few times during long flights to pass the time. During the Taekwondo instructor certification course that I attended in Korea, Grandmaster Yong-Sun Kim explained that visualizations plays a central role in the execution of movements in human functioning. In the context of sports, mental imagery is defined as the experience of an athlete imagining themselves while performing certain skills. According to Grandmaster Yong-Sun Kim, who is a graduate of Kyunhee University, they are taught that the two most common techniques used to generate images are visual and kinesthetic. His personal experience has been shown that mental imagery improves an athlete's motor skills during competition, as well as their ability to learn new skills during training. In competitive sports settings, elite Taekwondo athletes on the Korean national team use imagery to enhance training, performance, and rehabilitation, even at the Olympic level. I have some thoughts on how visualization and imagery, or some prefer to call it, can enhance martial arts combative self-defense skills and competitive performance. We use it as mental rehearsal or guided meditation. No matter the term, the basic techniques and concepts are the same. Visualize, simply stated, is the process of creating a mental image or intention of what you want to happen or feel. Sports psychologist researchers at Kyunhee University have been studying the impact of imagery on physical performance for decades. Their research shows that all people, regardless of age, sex, or athletic ability, can use imagery to enhance performance at the cognitive, behavior, and emotional levels. Their research rarely focuses exclusively on goal-based images, but instead the process of achieving a goal. I believe that this is likely because goal or outcome-based images are less often used by athletes. Rather, coaches and sports practitioners often encourage their athletes to focus on process goals, such as completing stretching exercises prior to competition rather than outcome goals. At the Taekwondo Master Course conducted by the Korean Martial Arts Instructors Association in Shihan City, Korea, I was taught that using internal imagery during training and competition improves performance more than relying on external imagery or psyching yourself up before you compete. As with other training techniques, the key to improving is repetition. Using the mind, a martial artist can call these images repeatedly, enhancing the skill through repetition or rehearsal, like physical practice. With mental rehearsal, minds and bodies become trained to perform the skills and performance imagined. Such repeated imagery can build both experience and confidence in your ability to perform certain skills under pressure or in various possible scenarios. Using the senses is one of the most effective visualized techniques. It results in a vivid performance experience in which the individual has complete control over a successful performance and a belief in this new self. These scenarios could include as many of the senses as possible. They can be images and pictures, how the body feels, the roar of the crowd. These sensory details help make the visualization more detailed and powerful. Guided imagery, visualization, mental rehearsal, or other such techniques can maximize the effectiveness and efficiency of your training. In a world where self-defense responses are measured in seconds and even hundredths of a second, most martial artists will use every possible training technique at hand. Visualizing a technique is one way to gain a responsive edge against a violent attacker. Next, we'll hear from Instructor Mai, a third-degree black belt in Korean self-defense and Hapkido. Master Hackworth shares, in the years of my martial arts training, every teacher that I have had believed in and taught various methods of visualization of improving our skills. Many interviews of Olympic athletes tell how they routinely use visualization techniques as part of training and competition. There are many stories of athletes who stated that using these techniques helped them to cultivate a competitive edge. As martial artists, we understand that it is a multi-sensory experience, and the technique involves much more than just visualization. While attending a seminar at the Incheon Sports College in Korea, I learned that the preferred term in competitive sports is imagery, which defines the process of imaging or picturing athletic performance from start to finish, employing all the senses rather than just focusing on visualizing a certain goal or outcome. I believe that all physical skills can be improved this way, including the performance of self-defense techniques. This belief is the foundation of why we have forms training in martial arts to begin with. As martial artists, we use these techniques to cultivate a heightened state of mental awareness, which has been shown to boost confidence and overall well-being, and in turn enhance performance. Scientific research on visualization and strength, the ability of an athlete to use the power of mental rehearsal to improve their actual skills and subsequent performance is somewhat of a mystery, but the general belief is that such practice increases confidence and helps build the paths and the nervous system that are aligned with reducing anxiety and distractions. Others point to the athletic's ability to improve focus and attention, and much like meditation, the mental visualization is not that different from actual physical rehearsal in that it helps an athlete prepare for the sport. Perhaps even more mysterious is the fact that new research is suggesting that visualization can strengthen muscles. Researchers from the Cleveland Clinic Foundation in Ohio investigated the strength benefits of imagining exercising a muscle. They reported that just thinking about exercising maintained muscle strength in a group of subjects. They split 30 healthy young adults into 3 groups. For 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week, for 12 weeks, Group 1 imagined exercising their little finger muscle. Group 2 imagined exercising their bicep muscle, and Group 3 acted as a control group and did not imagine exercising. Those in the first 2 groups were asked to think as strongly as they could about moving the muscle being tested to make the imaginary movement as real as possible. The researchers measured the muscle strength before, during, and after the training sessions. In the results of the study, Group 1, the finger exercisers, increased their strength 53%. Group 2, the bicep exercisers, increased their strength by 13.4%. As unbelievable as it sounds, after you take into consideration that the measurement of the participant's brain activity during each visualization session suggested that these strength gains were actually due to improvements in the brain's ability to signal muscle activity. With this understanding, it's easier to understand how visualization can improve not only muscle contractions, but many other athletic skills as well. The researchers believe that anyone who has difficulty doing physical exercise can use mental training and mental rehearsal methods to improve the muscle strength they may have lost or maintain the muscle strength they have. This is important for martial artists as they age or may have suffered an injury that limits their ability to train physically. Sport-specific exercises are still the most effective method of building and maintaining muscle strength, speed, power, and coordination. However, mental rehearsal and visualization exercises have proven to be helpful when recovering from injuries, but are probably not the best means of building strength for sports. I hope that you've gained appreciation for the benefits of visualization as a training method for improving your techniques from this information. I wish you the best success in your martial arts training. Taking what I call the 30,000-foot view is the most important step to visualizing the application of it. Next, we'll hear from Instructor Mai, a 3rd-degree black belt in Korean self-defense.